He gave a speech, kind of in a way, a response to Biden. He also went to Pennsylvania to Wilkes-Barre, campaigning for the Republican candidates there, Mastriano and Dr. Oz. I did listen to the whole speech just so I wasn't, only listen to the snippets that were getting clipped out on Twitter or whatever. And it's exactly what you expect. It's Trump's speech. He's obsessed with Stop This Deal. He's still obsessed with Russiagate. Oh my God, relived a whole story about Adam Schiff and Donald Trump Jr. and all this stuff. And newly obsessed with the FBI raid. And that was the bulk of what he talked about. Let's get a little taste of that.
The evil and malice of this demented persecution of you and me should be obvious to all, and it is. Even media companies that are pretty far left have come out and said, we can't believe this is happening in the USA. We are being assaulted by the same group at the FBI and DOJ that just a few years ago declared no reasonable prosecutor would charge crooked Hillary Clinton. Now these same people, the exact same people, are sending the FBI storming through the home of their #1 political rival. It's a disgrace like possibly never before. Our country's never seen anything like it. They talk about documents not being properly stored, yet they go in and take documents, dump them on the floor, stage a photo shoot, and pretend that I had done it, like I had put them all over the floor. They took that back after a lot of prodding. Then they put out for public consumption a picture which is seen all over the world. This is what they do. It's called disinformation. These are very dishonest, sick people.
He was so upset about that photo.
He's very upset about the photo, but notice what that speech is about. Me. And look, it works, right? And this is what translates to the people who are seen as the most strident allies of Trump. So I was looking especially at some of the reporters who were in attendance, and the snippets to me that really jumped out were Dr. Oz came on the stage, people clapped. They didn't boo, at least, like they did the first time that Trump endorsed him, but Mastriano came out there, he was a rock star.
Well,
rock star when he came out on the stage.
And what was it that Trump praised him for? It was Stop the Steal.
Exactly.
He was there. He was fighting for us. And so it does illustrate perfectly the bind that these Republican candidates are in. Because, Mastriano is rock star with the base. For Oz, he's got to go and sort of pay homage to Trump and bend the knee so that he can try to consolidate the Republican base, because that's part of his problem in these midterms and why his polling numbers have struggled, is because there isn't a lot of trust and love there with the GOP base. But at the same time, the way Republicans view Stop the Steal, the FBI raid, et cetera, I mean, Russiagate, everybody except them has basically moved on from, is very different from how independents and certainly how Democrats or sort of moderates might view it. So the fact that they're still obsessed with these things, that's what it's all about, it might help them rally the base, and that matters a lot in a midterm election, but it is not going to move the needle in terms of bringing new people over to the cause.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So when Trump, if you look and you pepper through, we're what exactly is the attack on Biden? Here's what he says, quote, "Above all, this election is a referendum on corruption and extremism of Biden and Democrats." And that is what he is tying both to Stop This Deal, to his general election message for the midterms, and then highlighting Dr. Oz and Doug Mastriano. But as you said, to him, corruption and extremism is solely based on Stop This Deal and on the FBI investigation against him. That's what he's praising Doug Mastriano for. He attacked John Fetterman a little bit. I think he said he was like a teenager, looked like a teenager getting high in his parents' basement. But beyond that, he didn't have an affirmative enough message for Oz. And in general, this just reminds me of a lot of the problems with the 2020 campaign. I remember Trump was on the stage at the debate, and he was recounting the exact problems with some sort of Russiagate. And I was like, dude, nobody knows what you're talking. I'm like, I know what you're talking about because I do this for a living in terms of declassification and the documents and what they showed here, Obamagate and the FISA. Normal folks don't care. And to the extent that Republicans were doing the best, it was when they were against the tides of social change, against inflation, against the general feeling of everything is in chaos. But now with kind of the narrowing, with Trump in particular, you are seeing the effect. At the same time, look, let's be honest. Can a single other Republican bring out that many people to a rally? No, absolutely not.
Right.
There's no way. People love him. The people in the base, they come out not to vote. They come out to vote for his allies. They come out in numbers that have never been seen before. I watched a rally or a video of the rally, the comparison between Biden and Trump. Look, a lot of people were at the Biden rally, like, don't get me wrong. But the reception that Trump gets is unlike anything anyone has ever seen in modern American politics. Like, if you've ever been to a Trump rally, and I've been to a lot of other types of political rallies as a journalist, I've never seen anything like it. And it reminded same energy as 2016, honestly, even 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just inspires people in a way that nobody has seen in a long time.
This core group. I mean,
Yeah.
it does remind me of the like the early days of Obama.
Yeah.
The sort of rock star
He really is.
following that he had in those days. But you know, listening to the speech, I was actually reminded of something Ann Coulter had said when she's out there, and she's
doesn't
been
like Trump.
over Trump
Yeah.
for a long time, and so it's nothing new for her to be like, this guy is done and over. But she wrote a recent column that was like, Trump is done, and she compared his speeches and the reception to him as like, you know, like the deadheads that follow the Grateful Dead around from concert to
interesting.
concert, wanting to hear the greatest hits and like relive the old memories. It really does, especially with the Russiagate stuff and going through all of that. And, you know, I mean, he'll still sometimes riff on how he won the 2016, like go through that and like blow by blow. It does kind of feel that way. I think at one point they were chanting "lock her up." I mean, it is really kind of like, let's get the old magic back. Let's get the band back together and relive our nostalgia from the good old days. It does have that kind of a quality. But at the same time, there's no denying, you know, this is the guy in terms of the Republican Party. And every candidate in the Republican Party, they sort of live by Trump and they die by Trump. Because on the one hand, he was the kingmaker in the primaries. A lot of these candidates would not be their nominees. Certainly Dr. Oz, possibly Mastriano, but definitely Dr.
No
Oz.
way, Mastriano.
Without Trump. So, I mean, he made both of these candidates. On the other hand, not just is he such a divisive figure and a lightning rod whose obsessions do not align with what the public is actually interested in, he also sucks up all the money. So you're also very dependent on him for any sort of fundraising. We're going to get to the problems with the National Republican Senatorial Committee, but part of the details that came out in that article is how dependent they are on Trump for their fundraising. Like, every fundraising email they send out is about Trump. It's not about, hey, here's what we're going to do, or even about like, oh, the Democrats are terrible and here's how they're destroying the country. It's like all about Trump. They are completely dependent on him, but they also are extraordinarily limited by him for how far they can go.
Yeah, that's right. And let's put the poll up there on the screen as well. Just again, to underscore this, the Mar-a-Lago raid boosted Trump amongst GOP voters.
Yeah.
They say may damage him with most voters. I don't know. I mean, listen, I never have any way to know. What history teaches us in general is that the more the country becomes mired in the details of these idiotic investigations, well, the more that people generally lose interest, and in general, it has helped Trump. Is this one different? Because this one might actually lead to his actual like indictment, which all signs currently point to.
Yeah.
To be clear, on what timeline, I have no idea. Will it damage him? Maybe. Will it damage us as much as January 6th? Probably not. I don't think so.
I mean, look, in my opinion, I've expressed this before, like this is qualitatively different than Russiagate in that there is very clear there. And you see that certainly, by the way, Republicans who were initially very enthusiastic about defending him have now gone pretty quiet, with some exceptions. As more details have come out, so there's that. There's the fact that he's not president anymore, so he doesn't have, you know, all of the sort of stature of that office, and he doesn't have as much of an ability to just control the narrative the way that he used to be able to do. You got to go over to frickin' Truth Social to find out what the hell he's saying these days. So I do think that those things make a difference, and clearly, like, now we've had enough polling to see overwhelmingly American people think like the search was justified, and they think that, you know, a majority thinks he should be prosecuted if he is in fact in violation of the law. So I do think it continues to kind of like harm him with normies who, like it or not, are still very like, you know, they respect the FBI, they want law and order, like, you know, I mean, really. And so it's definitely bolstered him with the base. I really think it strengthens his position in terms of making sure he secures the Republican nomination. All of the talk from a couple months ago about DeSantis rising the polls and whatever, I think this kind of nips that in the bud. But I do think it's one more thing that reminds people who had kind of forgotten a little bit in him being a bit quieter how obnoxious this guy, how chaotic it is when he's around, how divisive it is, and how much they were swayed by the Biden narrative of like, let's just calm things down and let's just try to get back to whatever normal actually is.
Well, we'll see how that looks. And listen, I mean, I think the Dems are in a better position than they've been in for a long time. There's a lot of multifaceted reasons as to why. Trump is certainly one of them. At the same time, the reemergence and reascendance of Trump, more from, not to say he wasn't already in charge, but especially to put him at the top is very good for him personally. So.
Well, listen, this really, it obviously is the kickoff to the final stretch for the midterms.
Right.
No doubt about that. Both these guys out there making their respective cases, and Trump and the Republicans there's no splitting them apart. So that it is going to be a choice election. I think that's pretty clear at this point.
Welcome to hell,
but
folks.
I also would say this is the unofficial kickoff for 2024. This is these campaigns and elections start earlier and earlier. Trump could announce anytime. The expectation is Biden will also announce fairly soon. So this is the path we're going to be headed down for quite a while now,
yes,
guys.
the redux is truly here.
Just
like Hollywood, the sequel nobody asked for, and yet will get shoved down their throat.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.